Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Secrets Defining Freedom from Diabetes webinar. I'm Terry Lindy with Destiny Management, and I'll be presenting over the next 3 days. Today, we're going to cover some key considerations for beginning a fitness and nutrition program. Tomorrow, we'll be covering all of the details of nutrition. And on day 3, we'll be covering all of the key concepts to have a successful fitness program. So I am much better with fitness and nutrition than I am with technology. So if there's any pausing or breaks in this, I apologize. Please hang in there and I will get everything figured out as we go along. Okay, so let's get started with what you should consider before beginning a fitness and nutrition program. Always feel free to contact us at any point. Here is our contact information, and I'm going to do my best to answer questions as they come up during the program and at the end. But if I don't get to answer your question, please feel free to contact me anytime. I've been working with diabetics for over 36 years now, and I've worked with clients one-on-one for over 30 years and seen the progressions of diabetes and worked with their health professionals. And I've learned quite a bit of information that I'm going to pass along to you over the years regarding fitness and nutrition and how it can help you minimize the adverse effects of diabetes, as well as having a lot more energy and a higher quality life. So here are some keys to getting started. First of all, goal setting. That's very important. There was a study a long time ago that took a senior class of graduating students and tracked their financial success over many years. And at the end of the study, bottom line is 2 people out of the entire graduating class had achieved their goals. And the difference with those 2 people versus everybody else is they had their goals written down. So here are some keys for goal setting. And these are the 4 components that you're going to be working with: progressive resistance, cardiovascular conditioning, flexibility, and nutrition. So these are the key steps with goal setting. First, you need to identify a goal. Then there has to be a deadline for this goal. You can't say, I want this in 10 years. You need to be able to break it down. 3 months is a good term for a goal. So try not to make it longer than 3 months. You might have certain goals that go, say, 4, 5, 6, but 3 is a good guideline. Then the next step is listing the obstacles you need to overcome. So this is a big one most people miss. It's one thing to say that you want to reach a particular goal, but if you don't know what obstacles you're going to have to overcome to get there, it's going to be much harder. So whether that might be learning nutrition and fitness information, or possibly working with other family members, whatever it might be, listing the obstacles to overcome. Then identify the people in the groups that you can work with. So health professionals, other family members to get support, people that have gone through the same thing. That's where Facebook groups come in, other diabetic groups to help support, and people who've already been through what you have to help guide you along the way. And list the skills and the knowledge that are going to be required to get you past the obstacles. Then you need to write down your plan of action. Doesn't have to be a huge list. Just get an idea of what needs to happen to get you to your goal. And then another big key at the end is list the benefits in it for you. And it's great to set a reward system. So if you reach your goal, you have something to look forward to. So the main thing for what we're going to cover today is injury prevention. So it's a key to take circumference measurements, and more importantly than knowing all of your circumference measurements, one thing, you can use them to calculate your body fat percentage, which we'll get into in a little bit, but knowing the difference between the right and left side measurements. Normally, your dominant limb is going to be about 1/4 of an inch bigger than the non-dominant. That's within a reasonable range where there's no concern. But a lot of times, your dominant limb left. If you do movements that involve both of your legs, then you're running the risk of an injury at some point down the road. So that's why the main reason it's important to take your measurements. And if you don't want to take all of your measurements, at least take the right and left side for arms and legs so that you know what exercises you should and should not do in the beginning. The other key factor for this is to determine your body fat percentage. So if you just go by your scale weight for determining progress, your scale weight fluctuates so much with water each day. Depending, it's a percentage of your body weight, but it can be 5 to 10 pounds of water weight fluctuations daily. So if you can break down your body weight into lean body mass and fat mass and separate them out, you'll know if the scale goes up and you're gaining muscle, that's okay, because eventually you'll reach a crossover point where your body fat comes back down and your scale weight comes back down. So it also gives you a better determining factor for determining your calories. So fat does not require calories to maintain itself. Muscle does. So when you are exercising, sleeping, lying still, your muscle still requires a certain number of calories that you're burning throughout the day. And the more muscle you have, the more calories you can burn. So when you're determining your calorie level, which we'll get into tomorrow, knowing your lean body mass is very helpful for this. Now, the calculation is pretty long, and most people do not like math. So I'm going to be sharing with you a formula or a page of ours that you can go to that has the body fat calculator. So all you need to do is enter in certain measurements and you'll be able to determine what your body fat is. Let's see if I can get this working. Okay, let's get back to the basics here. So another important thing is determining your baseline fitness level. So in the handouts, I've put together a battery of fitness tests that are good to determine your flexibility, muscular endurance, cardiovascular endurance, and all of the main key fitness parameters. By knowing this information, you can determine how intense of a program you should start with. This will determine, and we'll be going over this a lot more in day 3, but whether you should be doing 1 set, 2 sets, 3 sets, the exercise program is only going to be as good as what you can recover from. And that does vary, but if you start off too hard, you're either going to get sick or injured. Your immune system is actually weaker until you fully recover. And depending on how much you can recover from would determine your starting point for a fitness program. So that helps prevent you from starting off and going really strong for like 2 months and then coming down with a cold and having to take time off and then pushing really hard again for 6 weeks and you get the next round of colds coming in. Your immune system should be able to fight most everything out there as long as you're giving it good nutrition and it's staying healthy. So your recovery, knowing what level to start with, will help keep you consistent over the next few months, years, through the rest of your life, hopefully. Consistency is what is going to get you the results. So it's not a matter of going really hard and having to take time off and then go really hard again and having to take time off because you're sick or injured. You want to be consistent, and it's better to consistently undertrain and do too little every day, every week of every year than it is to go really hard for a couple months and then have to take time off. So even if that's 5 minutes a day, whatever it might be, get the consistency built up. And then as your conditioning level increases, then you can add and go from there. So a couple things for nutrition. Nutrition is going to be over 50% of the battle. So we have progressive resistance, your cardiovascular conditioning, and flexibility. Nutrition is the fourth one. And of those four, 50% of it or more is going to be nutrition related. This is what gives your body the nutrients to recover at its best. And a lot of overuse injuries can be prevented with nutrition. So especially keeping the calories up to what your body needs is going to be important for the recovery. A lot of diets keep your calories way too low, and it puts you into a catabolic or broken down state. Now, we'll go over this tomorrow as far as calorie levels and how to make adjustments. But if you were to jump up your calories right away, it wouldn't do you any good. You would just be gaining body fat. So we need to pick up your calories in relation to your lean body mass and putting everything together. And I'd like you to keep in mind for tomorrow that food is your fuel. So it's like your car doesn't run without gas. Your body doesn't know when to shut down. So your car will stop when it runs out of gas, but your body is going to use your muscle and other tissues for energy to keep going. And that's what puts you in a broken down state. Keep in mind that small changes are all that's needed. Anything is better than nothing. So even if you have one more thought about fitness and nutrition tomorrow than you did today, that's a plus and you're headed in the right direction. And keep in mind that an 80-20 rule works well. So if you're good or on following the program 80% of the time, the other 20% isn't going to make that much of a difference. And everything comes down to moderation. Okay, now what I'm going to share with you is one of the other health professionals in our network, Rubin, and he has what he calls food stories to help with the mental aspect of how to be successful with a nutrition program.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rubin, and I'm very excited to be talking to you today on behalf of Terry Lind and the organization for helping you guys to move forward with your plan for your diabetes program and improving your diabetes condition. So I'm going to be sharing my screen here and doing my little dog and pony show, and I hope that you find it useful. So my name, as I said, is Rubin, and I have been in the health and wellness field for quite some time. Sorry, taking a minute to get kind of settled here. The other thing I wanted to say is that I appreciate Terry inviting me to talk to you guys about my approach, which is a food story approach to health and wellness. And I do hope that this helps you to improve what you're going to be learning and doing with his program. All right, well, let's just kind of keep on moving. I've been doing this work for a long time, over 15 years, 20 years total in the health and wellness industry, and during which time I did personal training, and I've done coaching for many, many years. I teach nutritionists also about this approach. So that's just a little bit about me. So the presentation is really about introducing you to this idea of food story, that we all have a food story. What is my food story? How does my food story affect me? So if you have done this, if you have asked for a plan, told a nutritionist or a naturopath or an acupuncturist or personal trainer, hey, give me a plan, or you've said, hey, I know what I should be doing, I know what I should be eating, but I need your help to be accountable or hold me to the program, then you're right where I suspect most people are, and coming from at least the people that I've worked with over the years. So they ask these two things. The challenge is that even with the best plan, which I know you're getting your hands on a great plan, it can still be hard to be successful. And the honest truth is, if just having a plan or just having someone to keep you accountable was going to help you be successful, you would have probably already been that way by now. So that's what this is supposed to help with, is something extra and above and beyond that. And the reason why it's so important to understand food story is because it's being given to us, or fed to us, if you will, by many, many different sources in our world. So obviously we have a lot of cultural beliefs and ideas and thoughts about food. What are we supposed to eat? What's good? What's bad? This is better for diabetes. This is better for blood control. This is better for weight loss. This is better for heart disease. There's a lot of confusion that's been given to us through our cultural system in terms of advertising, marketing, the health and fitness and wellness industry. And it can be, wow, it can be really overwhelming. And if you're feeling overwhelmed by this information, don't be surprised. So part of your food story comes from this cultural food story. The other piece, of course, of your food story comes from this emotional, this psychological relationship that we have with food. It's a very powerful part of our lives. And if we don't understand the important role that food plays in our lives because of this, we tend to think just with our front brain. We tend to think like scientists only about carbs and calories and cholesterol and portion control. And that isn't enough for most of us to have success with changing our diet for the long run. The other thing is, I call them cognitive challenges, just because it's not that we're not intelligent. We are all very intelligent people when it comes to this. I imagine some of you are more intelligent than I am, that you've read, hundreds of books about nutrition and dieting. And the idea behind this program is to give you what you need to be successful, rather than trying to teach you everything under the sun. Because what we know is that less information often is better. So enough information to be effective, but not too much information. We don't want you to be getting an information overload or paralysis by analysis. And we want you to be able to take this information and actually integrate it into your lives, so you can have long-term and permanent change in your blood sugar control, in your weight, in your food habits, in your health and well-being in general. So again, letting go of the idea that it's purely an intellectual pursuit, but allowing yourself to believe and understand that there's psycho-spiritual, emotional components, there's a cultural component. It's bigger than we thought it was. So don't beat yourself up just because you don't have motivation or intelligence or willpower. Think that that's all that there is. It's okay to feel into this experience. Okay, so my approach is this idea of food story. You'll hear me say food story. You'll hear me say relationship with food. They're much the same. They're kind of interchangeable to me. Your food story, everyone has a food story because everybody eats. Therefore, we all have thoughts and feelings and beliefs about food. And it's developed over many, many years, from childhood all the way through till today. It's still developing. Mine is still, developing and growing as I progress and through life. And it's telling me everything about how I should or should not interact with food, what I should eat, shouldn't eat, good for me, bad for me, how much, when, you name it. It's everything. And when we come to understand and work with our food story, it's a lot more helpful than just focusing on, the science of nutrition and just willpower and motivation. And I will do this and I'm going to do it, kind of white knuckle. So that's what food story is. And it's often getting in the way of your success because most people never even heard this idea. When I talk about it, they go, oh, that makes sense. Sure, I've got this relationship with food and it's kind of running in the background and it tells me what I should and shouldn't do. And yeah, I keep thinking of it as willpower or guilt or shame or all these other things. But no, you're right. It's this sort of internal narrative that keeps running, this tape that keeps running that tells me about food. And once we start to understand that it's there, we can really work with it and get it to help us instead of just continuing to hinder us. So your food story, as I said, there's a lot of components of food story, and where it came from, of course, this is sort of the cultural background, where you grew up, when you grew up, what time period, what ethnic background you came from, small family, big family. There's a lot of sort of big picture culture and then family unit culture and community culture, all of what sort of, originates your food story in terms of your family of origin, where you were, when you were there, how big of a family, etc. So we didn't ask for this piece of our story, of course. It's just that it's been given to us over the years. Usually it's pretty well established by the time we're 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And when we think about our earliest memories with food, often we're going to this food story. We're going to this family of origin food story that tends to carry a lot of power, a lot of influence in our lives. So it's important to be able to see this and understand it and know where it's coming from, and understand that, it's not all you. You didn't make this whole food story up. You were given a lot of it. And so that's why, for the parts that don't work, we have to realize that somebody else gave it to us, our parents, our caregivers, our local communities, whatever it was. And it's that part of our story, the parts of our story that don't work for us, that we want to be able to reflect on and say, okay, this isn't serving me, so it's time to change. Because again, you did not spring full forth from your parents and decide, this is how I think and feel about food. It's been gradually developing over the years. Of course, you, as I say, over the years, developed a personal relationship with food because of who you are. All the different parts of who you are make up your personal food story as they interact with your family of origin and as they interact with culture, the big picture culture. So I was a really skinny kid and I wanted to be buff, and so it was all about protein for me, so whatever it is. Sugar is your best friend, or I hate vegetables because they were all boiled, or I had a big brother who ate all my food and I've always been hungry, so therefore I'm very possessive about my food. Could be 100 things. But it is good to just understand what it is about our relationship with food and our upbringing and our family that helps us to understand, okay, now I'm starting to get a sense of my story, and then I can sort of seat it inside of the cultural story, right? So now that we start to become aware of this, we can say, okay, I see what's going on here. There's this story that keeps running in my head that keeps telling me this is how I should do things. This is how I should think and feel and act towards food. So whatever it takes to help you build that awareness, I want to encourage you to do that, okay? There's no rule here. I don't believe there's any right or wrong way to do it. So you just find a way to build awareness that you have a food story and get a sense of that this is where it comes from in terms of your personal experience. So once we've done that, we want to look at it. We want to sort of analyze it and say, okay, wait a minute. As I think about this, why am I craving this food? Why am I having so much trouble with portion control? Why don't I make time to shop and cook and prep and do all the things that I know are good for me? How come I don't have motivation? And how come I keep relapsing? And how come I don't feel like I have the willpower to be successful? Oh, okay, I see. Okay, this is good. I'm aware of it now. I'm understanding it now. I'm sort of analyzing it and sort of getting a better sense of, okay, now it makes sense. Well, okay, because of this, that, and the other thing, it makes sense why I might be this way. The tricky part here is not to get judgy. Don't get out the wet noodle and, start beating yourself. You got to let yourself just acknowledge that, hey, this is how I feel about it. This is the emotions that come up when I talk about my food story to myself, because it's just the reality. There's nothing good or bad about it. It's not right or wrong. It's not a reflection on who you are as a person. It's just the nature of having a food story. So be careful about, shoulding on yourself, blaming and shaming and saying I should or shouldn't feel this way about it. And, try to just let those feelings be there and sort of notice them. I know this is hard work for us as a rule, but noticing that it's just kind of there. Okay, it's there. Now what am I going to do about it? Because that's really the key, is we can't move forward until we can come to some sense of acceptance that this is the reality of what my food story is. And again, this doesn't mean acceptance in the sense of, well, that's just what it is, and I guess I got to suffer through it, and okay, I'll put up with my food story. Acceptance means that you acknowledge it for what it is, you see it for what it is, you're not overly attached to it, you realize that you're not alone, and that if you just could accept, in the sense of sort of like acknowledging this is what it is, okay, now I get the reality, it does in fact empower you and allow you to move forward and create change. So that's what I want you to be thinking about as you move forward into the big steps, of course, which is this big challenge, which is action steps. Of course, action steps are always the hardest part, but if you can see what your story is and you can accept it, just allow it to be what it is, then you can also say, okay, I get that that's what it is, and I still want to make some changes, right? Rather than getting into but it shouldn't be this way, and I wish it weren't this way, and how come it has to be this way? Be like, hey, look, it is this way. And I can still make some adjustments, and I can still change it. That's one of the ironies about acceptance that people don't realize. Because acceptance doesn't mean suffering through or just giving up or just being like, whatever, all right, I guess I'll accept it. But it truly means, okay, I get that this is what it is, and therefore, now that I'm not all torn up emotionally about it, I can, in fact, make action steps to improve it. Because you can rewrite your story. And as you rewrite your story one day at a time, you will start to see your behaviors shift and change, your feelings, your thoughts, everything will shift because you're working on your story. Then all this knowledge that you've built, all this information that you're getting from this program will start to slip into action in a much more smooth fashion. It'll just start to click into place. It won't feel so hard. Okay, so your guidelines are to just do whatever helps you become aware, watch out for the blame and shame game. While the nutrition information is helpful, don't get into information overload. Take the information that you're getting. It's probably sufficient. You don't need to know every single detail of every little bit there is to know about diabetes care and health. If you have questions, you can ask Terry and the team. They'll get it for you. But don't feel like you have to have a master's level of information and knowledge to be successful. Most people, more information doesn't help. Okay, so then you can work within that nutrition plan, within the reality of your food story, and you can talk to your coach and you can say, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, but this is what I'm capable of doing within my story, that I'm realizing that my motivation gets eaten away when I do it this way or don't do it this way. Hey, can you work with me? Can you help me to sort of bridge the gap, right? So having your doctor, your nutritionist, your wellness professional, your personal trainer work to help you create change rather than only delivering information to you, then there'll be you will be much more successful, and your coach will be a lot happier that they don't have to keep giving you information, but notice that you're not using the information. Every coach wants you to be successful, and we give information because we think that'll help. You've asked that for us for it, and we think that you think it'll help, but we know that it won't in the long run. But if you know that more information won't help, but actually coaching and helping you work within this system will help, then we're going to be super happy to help you to do that. I'm running over my own tongue. Okay, so we're wrapping up. I'm trying to keep this brief as an intro. These are some resources that you can look at to have a better understanding of what I mean by food story and some of the other pieces within it. But really focus on this stuff. Work with Terry, work with the team, and have them help you to the extent that you can. Integrate your understanding of your food story, what works and what doesn't for you, into the nutrition plan that you have. All right? All right, best of luck. I'm going to stop the share and come to here and say if you have any questions or concerns. Obviously, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information, ian@ianrubin.com. If you have questions and concerns, if you need more help with food story, just let me know. Okay? Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You need to fit it into your lifestyle, whatever that means for your particular situation. And that's kind of our philosophy. Now, I've got some questions that have come in, so let me go over those really quick, and then we'll wrap up and get ready for tomorrow. So, what should my blood sugar be when I wake up first thing in the morning? That's a good question. And typically what you're looking for is a blood sugar reading somewhere between 70 and 130 milligrams per deciliter. This is the American version. I know there's an international conversion, so you can contact us if you need that. But somewhere between 70 and 130, and then a couple hours after eating, if you're at around 180 or lower, that's awesome. It is important to keep in mind that everybody's blood sugar is going to spike after they eat. So it's a matter of being able to control it so it doesn't get too high. Okay, another question, will diabetes ever go away? And unfortunately, the answer to that one is no. You'll never get completely rid of diabetes, but it is manageable to a very large degree. This is a good one. How can I get motivated to take care of myself? The biggest thing, again, is starting small and gaining consistency with habits. But here's some tips. You can move away from the all or nothing thinking. So try and understand that anything that you do to move yourself in a forward direction is good, and it's a lot better than not doing anything. Don't judge yourself or feel bad about something. Just accept it for what it is and move on. And make tiny habits. Don't come up with a bunch of habits to change right away. Start with just one. And then when you've become proficient at that one, then you can add another one and build upon success. So that covers everything that they had for you for day one. If you have any particular questions and you'd like to schedule an appointment to speak with us in detail in person, I'm going to put a link into the chat box right now. And then again, tomorrow, we're going to be covering all of the details with nutrition, and hopefully we'll see you there. Thanks for your time. Bye.